My name is E.Stout. I teach Algebra 1 in Louisville, Kentucky at Fern Creek High School. We use the CPM or College Preparatory Mathematics curriculum. And the lesson I'm looking at today is factoring and using the box and diamond method to kind of lead into graphing parabolas and quadratics without using a calculator. So on a normal lesson, we'll start with a warm-up, then we'll get into the bulk of the lesson, then we'll have an exit slip. So the warm-up for this lesson was factor using the box and diamond. Y equals x squared plus 12x plus 27. So my students would start out by plugging in the x squared value in the bottom left-hand square. The third term, which is 27 in the top right-hand corner. They would multiply those two together to get 27x squared, and then they would bring down the middle term to get 12x. Now, my students would try to find what two numbers will multiply to give you 27 and add to give you 12. And if they have any trouble with that, they just kind of make a chart. Oh, these are the factors of 27, whether it's 1 and 27 or 3 and 9. This one, there's not many options, and so they would figure out that it's 3x and 9x. So they would plug those in here and here, and then here and here. Now, to find the factors or the binomials, we would just say, well, what's the factors of x squared? What times what gives you x squared? Well, x and x. All right? And then x times what would give you 3x? Well, 3 would go on the outside. And then x times 9 is 9x. So your two binomials would be x plus 3 and then x plus 9. Now this would lead my students into finding the roots. They've begun to set these equal to 0 to find the x-intercepts. So that's what I would have them do next. So x plus 3 is equal to 0, and then x plus 9 is equal to 0. And they would work it out to solve for both x values and get x equals -3 and x equals -9. So if they were to graph this, they would find that the x-intercepts are -3 and -9. And this leads us into the next thing, using the box and diamond method and being able to graph a quadratic without just plugging it into y equals in the calculator, and kind of just learning how to do it on their own without the use of a calculator. So the same method as the warm-up, you have a quadratic. We're going to use the box and diamond method. X squared times 18 is 18x squared. Bring down your middle term, which is 9x. Same thing, what two numbers multiply to give you 18 and will add to give you 9? It would be 6x and 3x, so those will get plugged in right here. X squared, the factors are x and x. X times 6 is 6x, x times 3 is 3x. So they would realize that the roots would be x plus 6 and x plus 3. And they could set those equal to 0 as well, just like in the warm-up. So x would be -6 and x would be -3. So then each team, I work in study teams in here, I have 8 teams of 4. The majority of them are full. I have 31 kids in about every class I teach, so they are very full. So each team will get one of these large graph paper post-it notes. I don't have many to give out, so they are very important that the kids don't make mistakes. So I do have them write with pencil at the beginning, and then they go over with marker. But I'm just going to go over with marker just for the sake of this. So every team would make a scale. Each team would be assigned a certain quadratic, whether it's positive x squared value, negative, so on and so forth. The one I'm using is y equals x squared plus 9x plus 18. And the 4 points I want each student to find, or each team, are the two x-intercepts, if they have to, the y-intercept, and the vertex. So, found the x-intercepts, those are down here. They would be -6 and 0, and then -3 and 0. And once a team finds their x-intercepts, they would plot them on the graph. And I like to have every point get labeled just because if they're kind of off and they label it, I'm able to give them credit because this is what they meant to do, but maybe they just messed up a little bit. So they have their two x-intercepts. The next one is pretty easy. It's the y-intercept. Majority of the time it's given to you in the equation. It's the last term or the third term. So that would be 18. So the y-intercept would be 0 and 18. So they would have 3 of the 4 points already completed. Now the point my kids struggle with finding is the vertex. We haven't got into the completing the square method just yet. So the way we're doing it is just finding the midpoint of the 2 vertexes, plugging in that x value for that midpoint, and then just going from there. So obviously the halfway point between -6 and -3 would be -4.5. And then I would have them plug this into the original equation, so you would get -4.5 squared plus 9 times 4.5, or times -4.5, and then plus 18. And this would come out to equal -2.25 if you worked it all out. And so the vertex would have the -4.5 as the x value, and then -2.25 as the y value. We would plot that point, so -4.5, halfway between -3 and -6. They would go down to about right here, making sure that they're labeling their point, just because it's not going to be perfect. I don't expect it to be like exactly perfect when they're graphing these points. I just want them to make sure they label, and that way they can get full credit as a team. So they would have their 4 points, their vertex, their 2 x-intercepts, and their y-intercept. And the last part would be graphing it. Then I'm not an art teacher, I'm not perfect, I don't expect them to be. So if their graph is a little shaky, it's okay. Just as long as they're touching all 4 of their points that they have, I'm good with it. So as you can see, I'm not the best at it. I try to sketch more than anything, but it doesn't look that good. But this is what each team should wind up with at the end of this lesson. They should wind up with a large poster that would have everybody's name on it. Each kid would have a role or responsibility within the team, whether it's timekeeper, task manager, yada, yada, yada. Recorder, reporter. Reporter, they will present to the rest of the class at the end after this activity is done. And then once we've completed this activity, we would move on to the exit slip for the day, which is about 10 minutes or so. I would just give two quadratics to the class. All kids would do the same ones, and they would just try their best to graph the quadratics on graph paper without using the calculator. Just see if they can take what they did as a team and do it on their own. So that's about it. This was my lesson. So using box and dime method to factor was the warm-up, and then taking that and learning how to graph quadratics without using a calculator. So thank you.